He stormed into her house ready for war, but the moment he saw Stella cradling a newborn in the glow of morning light, his anger shattered into silence, and the man who thought he'd lost everything felt his heart start to beat again. Owen Hale's world was made of glass and steel. Sleek towers that bore his name and reflected the sky he could no longer touch. From his penthouse window, he watched the city pulse below him like a living thing he'd conquered. But even victories felt hollow now. Every deal closed, every zero added to his fortune. None of it silenced the echo of her name. Stella, he hadn't said out loud in years. Couldn't. It still caught somewhere behind his ribs, a word made of memory and regret. "Sir, the board's waiting," his assistant murmured from the doorway. Owen adjusted his cufflinks, a habit when he needed control, and nodded. 5 minutes. The assistant hesitated. "There's also something else. A delivery was sent to your private office. It's from Estella Monroe." The pen froze in Owen's hand. He looked up sharply, his voice steady but colder. "What kind of delivery?" "A painting. And a note." Owen's pulse stuttered. He didn't believe in coincidences. Stella had been the only woman who saw through his empire, through him. More than a year since the divorce. More than a year since she walked away, leaving only a silence that money couldn't drown. He finished the meeting mechanically, his thoughts a storm. When the doors finally closed, he crossed the marble floor to his private office and saw it. A canvas wrapped in brown paper, his name scrawled in her familiar handwriting. He tore it open. The painting was of a sunset over the ocean, a place they once called the edge of the world. Their place. The same horizon where she once told him, "Love isn't something you own, Owen. It's something you protect." Beneath the painting, a note. "You once said time fixes everything. Maybe it has. Stella." For the first time in years, Owen didn't know what to do. He'd built empires out of logic and control, but her note felt like a crack running down a skyscraper. Beneath it, something dangerous stirred. Anger, longing, confusion. Why now? Why after all this time? His phone buzzed. A name he hadn't seen in years appeared on the screen. Ethan Ward, an old mutual free ND. "She's back in town," Ethan said the moment Owen answered. "And rumor has it not alone." Owen's jaw tightened. "What do you mean?" She's got a baby, man. No one knows who the father is." A silence. Then Owen said, voice clipped, "Text me her address." Her small cottage smelled of lavender and rain. Outside, the world was quiet. Only the soft patter of October drizzle filled the silence. Stella hummed softly, rocking the baby in her arms. A tiny boy with chestnut curls and the faintest dimple on his cheek. "You've got your father's stubborn look," she whispered, smiling sadly. "Let's hope you don't get his temper, too." The baby cooed, as if protesting. She brushed a tear from her cheek. "He doesn't know about you, little one. Not yet." There had been nights she nearly told him. Nights she picked up her phone, staring at his number, feeling the weight of both guilt and pride. But then she'd remember. The harsh words, the coldness in his eyes where he accused her of betrayal she never committed. So she'd chosen silence. Still, the ache never left. Some loves don't die, they go quiet, waiting. She placed the baby in the cradle and turned to the easel, wiping her hands on her paint-splattered apron. Her new piece was unfinished. Streaks of gray and gold, grief and hope tangled together. Her art had always told the truth she couldn't speak. Then headlights flashed outside, tires on gravel. A car door slammed. Her breath hitched. "No," she whispered, panic creeping up her throat. "Not now." But it was too late. Owen Hale was walking toward her door, his frame sharp against the rain. Her heart hammered as she clutched the baby to her chest. He didn't knock. He never did. Each step up her porch felt like trespassing into his own memories. The smell of wet pine, the sound of her wind chimes. It all came back in fragments. He told himself he only wanted closure, to confront her, to ask who the father was. But beneath the rage was something else, a fear he couldn't name. He raised his hand to knock, but froze when he heard it, soft humming from inside. A woman's lullaby. Her lullaby. Owen's jaw clenched. He opened the door, and there she was. Stella turned, startled, her eyes wide, the baby in her arms. For a heartbeat, no one spoke. The world went still. The baby whimpered softly. Owen's anger drained from his face, as if someone had cut the power to his fury. His hand trembled slightly at his side. "Stella," he breathed. She looked at him, tears forming, whispering just one word. "Owen." If you were in Owen's shoes, seeing the love you lost holding a newborn baby, what's the first thing you'd feel? Anger, heartbreak, or hope? Comment below. Owen's voice caught somewhere between fury and disbelief. The house smelled of warm milk and paint thinner. Soft rainlight touched the floorboards like glass. Whose child is that? The question burst out before he could stop himself. Stella's arms tightened around the baby. "Lower your voice, Owen. You'll wake him." Him. The single word hit harder than any insult. He stepped closer, anger rising to fill the space of confusion left behind. "You could at least answer me." Her gaze flickered down to the tiny bundle. "You've been gone, Dee. You forfeited the right to answers." The baby stirred, a faint whimper escaping his lips. Owen froze, torn between the instinct to retreat and the inexplicable urge to reach out. "Stella," he said more quietly, "tell me who he is." She sighed. "He's mine." "That much is obvious," he snapped, then instantly regretted it. "Who's the father?" Silence stretched like glass between them. The clock ticked. Rain tapped the window pane. When she finally looked up, her eyes were wet but steady. "Does it matter?" Owen wanted to say yes. It mattered because every cell in his body screamed that something about this baby, his color, his shape, the faint cleft in his chin, felt familiar. But he'd built his life on not showing weakness. He folded his arms instead. "You send me a painting. You sign it with your name after years of nothing. And then I find you like this with a child? What are you playing at?" "I wasn't playing anything." "Then why the message? Why now?" She turned away, rocking the baby again, her voice trembling. "Because I was tired of hating you." The confession knocked the air from his lungs. He remembered the last night they'd seen each other. The shouting, the shattered glass, the silence afterward. He'd accused her of betraying him with a business rival. She'd walked out with tears in her eyes and no explanation. And now she was here, holding a child with his eyes. He took a step forward. "May I?" She hesitated. "Owen, please don't. I just want to see him." Her resistance faltered beneath the softness of his voice. Slowly, she lifted the baby, allowing Owen to look. The little boy blinked up at him. Blue-gray eyes, the exact shade Owen saw in the mirror every morning. He stopped breathing. The baby's small hand reached out, clutching the air between them. Something inside him broke. Owen's hand trembled as he brushed one finger against the boy's. The baby latched on instinctively. That's impossible," he whispered. Stella turned away. "Some things aren't impossible, just painful." He looked at her, realization dawning like thunder. "He's mine, isn't he?" Tears rolled down her cheeks. "Owen, is he mine?" She nodded once, silently. The world tilted. His knees felt weak. His chest burned with equal parts awe and fury. "More than a year, Stella. More than a year you kept my son from me. You wouldn't have believed me. Try me." Her eyes flared. "You called me a liar before. You accused me of sleeping with a man I never even touched. You told me I ruined your name. How could I tell you about him after that?" Owen's breath came ragged. "You should have tried anyway." "I did," she whispered. "You wouldn't answer." He searched her face, the face he once memorized, the one that haunted his dreams through all those sterile nights in empty hotel rooms. He wanted to stay angry, but the sight of her trembling hands, the baby's small weight in her arms, melted his defenses. The storm outside grew louder. "You named him?" he asked quietly. "Lo," she said, "after your father." Owen looked down at the boy again. "Leo." The baby smiled, small, pure, unknowing. And in that fragile grin, the billionaire who could buy anything realized how utterly poor he'd been. He sank onto the couch, burying his face in his hands. Stella watched, heartbreaking. I didn't want to hurt you, she said softly. I wanted to protect him from all the noise, the headlines, the fights. He looked up, eyes red. You were protecting him from me. Her silence was answer enough. Lightning flared through the window, illuminating the room. The painting on the wall, the baby between them, the years of unspoken love. I don't know how to do this, Owen said finally. Any of it. Stella sat beside him, keeping a careful distance. Then maybe we start by not shouting. A small sound escaped his throat, half a laugh, half a sob. That's new for us. She smiled faintly. Maybe time fixes some things after all. The baby yawned, his tiny fist opening like a flower. Owen reached out again, this time gently. He's perfect. He's real, Stella said. That's what scared me the most. Owen turned toward her, their eyes locking. The air thickened with everything they hadn't said in years. Apologies, questions, longing. I lost you once, he murmured. I don't want to lose him too. Stella swallowed hard. Then don't. When someone finally reveals a truth that changes everything, is it too late to forgive, or is that the only time forgiveness truly matters? Let me know what you think in the comments. The storm raged through the night, wind rattling the windows like ghosts trying to get in. The three of them, Owen, Stella, and the tiny boy between them, sat in uneasy quiet, the air thick with words unsaid. Owen hadn't moved from the couch. He was still staring at the baby, like looking too long might make him disappear. Stella paced the room, rocking Leo gently, her steps slow, deliberate. Anything to avoid meeting Owen's eyes. Finally, Owen spoke, his voice low. So, all this time, I had a son. My name, my blood, and I didn't even know. Stella's shoulders tensed. I told you I tried. You wouldn't listen. He exhaled sharply, fingers raking through his hair. You should have tried harder. Her gaze snapped toward him. Don't you dare put this on me. The words came out louder than she intended, and Leo whimpered in her arms. She immediately softened, kissing his forehead, whispering, Sure, it's okay, baby. Owen stood, pacing now. You could have sent a lawyer, a message, anything. Instead, you let me hate you while you raise my child alone. Stella turned to him, her voice trembling but strong. Do you remember what you said the night I left? You told me that everything about me was a mistake you should have never trusted. You said love was for fools. He stopped cold. He had said those words. Drunk on pride and betrayal. He'd thrown them like knives, and they had landed deep. She went on, quieter now. You built walls so high I couldn't climb them. I left because I had to protect something pure. I wasn't going to raise Leo in a world where love was a weapon. Her words hit like a strike to his chest. He'd always seen her as fragile, but standing there, fierce, maternal, resolute, she looked unbreakable. Maybe I deserve that, he muttered. Stella looked at him for the first time in hours. You didn't deserve to lose him, but you did deserve to lose me. The silence that followed was heavier than any shouting match. Owen's hand shook as he poured himself a glass of water. His reflection in the glass door showed a man he barely recognized, tired, aged human. I thought anger would make it easier, he said finally. Hating you helped me survive. If I stopped being angry, I'd have to feel everything else. The loss, the regret, the loneliness. I wasn't ready. Neither was I, she said softly. Leo stirred again, his tiny hand reaching toward the ceiling fan spinning slowly above them. The baby's soft breathing filled the quiet. He looks like you when he's thinking, Owen murmured. Stella smiled faintly. And he frowns like you when he's hungry. Something shifted between them. Not forgiveness, not yet, but the tension eased slightly, like a knot loosening. Why the painting? Owen asked. Why send it now? Her eyes softened. It was Leo's idea in a way. He frowned. He's barely a few months old. I was painting one night while he slept, she said, smiling faintly. I kept thinking about that sunset we used to chase. It was the only place we didn't fight. So I painted it. And when it was done, I thought, maybe it's time to stop pretending I don't miss the good parts. He looked down, ashamed. You shouldn't miss me. I don't, she whispered. I miss who we were before everything fell apart. The words landed softly, like the rain outside, constant, unrelenting, cleansing. He sat back on the couch, head in his hands. I thought money could fill the silence. It didn't. It only made it louder. Stella said nothing, but the look in her eyes told him she understood. They'd both been haunted by what could have been. Then the baby began to cry, sharp, urgent, small. Stella went to stand, but Owen moved faster. "I've got him," he said gently. Her eyes widened, but she hesitated. Then she nodded. He lifted Leo carefully, awkward at first. The baby's cries faltered, replaced by a soft coo. Owen's expression changed, wonder, disbelief, something deeper than he'd ever shown anyone. "Hey there, little man," he murmured, rocking him slightly. "You've got some lungs on you." The baby blinked up at him, wide-eyed, unafraid. "You're a natural," Stella whispered, watching him. He gave a shaky smile. "I've closed billion-dollar deals, but this feels like the first thing that actually matters." Stella turned away quickly, blinking back tears. "Don't say it unless you mean it. Owen." "I do," he said quietly. "I just don't know if it's too late." She didn't answer. The lights flickered as thunder rolled overhead. He still held Leo, the warmth of the child's body grounding him in a way he hadn't felt in years. When Stella returned with a blanket, their hands brushed, briefly, accidentally, painfully familiar. The contact lingered longer than it should have. They both looked away, hearts thudding. I'll stay until the storm passes," Owen said finally. "Then I'll go." She hesitated, then nodded. "You can sleep on the couch." He almost smiled, like old times. Stella didn't smile back, but her eyes softened. Old times don't always deserve nostalgia. "Maybe not," he said, "but they deserve honesty." She looked at him curiously. "What do you mean?" "I mean I'm tired pretending I stopped loving you." Her breath caught. "Owen," he raised a hand, stopping her. "Don't say anything. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but if there's even a small chance I can be in his life, and yours, I'm not walking away again." Stella looked down at the baby, who had drifted back to sleep against Owen's chest. Her voice was barely a whisper. "We'll see if your actions match your words." He nodded. "Fair enough." Outside, the storm finally began to quiet. When someone who hurt you deeply suddenly shows change, do you give them a chance, or protect your peace and walk away? Tell me what you would do in Stella's place. The rain didn't stop that night. By morning, it was no longer just a drizzle, it was a flood. Water rushed down the street like liquid glass, blurring the world beyond the windows. The storm had taken out the power lines. Only faint gray daylight filtered through the curtains. Owen stood by the window, arms folded, watching the relentless rain. His shirt clung slightly to his chest. He'd been up all night pacing. Stella moved quietly around the living room, the baby cradled against her shoulder, whispering soft lullabies. When she caught his reflection in the glass, she said softly, "The roads are closed. You're not going anywhere until it clears." He turned toward her, the tension between them tangible but no longer sharp. "So I'm trapped here?" "You're welcome to call it shelter," she said, with a faint smirk that almost made him smile. He exhaled, running a hand through his hair. "Shelter, then." For a long while, the only sound were the rain and the baby's occasional sighs. Owen moved closer to the fire she'd lit in the hearth. Its warmth cast an amber glow over his face, softening the harsh lines time and regret had carved there. "Do you ever paint for yourself any more?" he asked quietly. Stella looked up from the cradle, surprised. "What do you mean?" "You used to say painting was how you breathed, that if you stopped, you'd suffocate." She smiled faintly. "I guess I learned to breathe differently. Life forced me to." He nodded slowly, eyes drifting toward the canvas near the window, an unfinished piece, half light, half shadow. "That one's beautiful." "It's not finished," she said quickly. "Neither are we," he murmured. Her brush froze midair. "Owen," he didn't look away. "You said time might fix things. Maybe this storm is its way of making sure we talk." "Talk?" she repeated. "After more than a year of silence?" He took a step closer. After more than a year of pretending silence was enough. Her voice trembled. You hurt me, Owen. You didn't just stop loving me. You made me believe I didn't matter. He looked down, guilt flooding his features. I know. Do you? She pressed. Do you know what it's like to love someone so deeply that their absence feels like a wound that never closes? He lifted his eyes, raw and unguarded. Yes, every day since you left. She blinked, her lips parting. The anger in her softened into confusion, then something warmer. Something she didn't want to name. The baby stirred in the cradle, crying softly. Owen moved instinctively, crouching beside it. It's okay, Leo, he whispered. You got quite the thunder out there, huh? The way he spoke, gentle, tender, shook Stella. She'd never seen him like this. You've done this before? She asked. He smiled faintly, eyes on the baby. No, but I've watched a lot of board members cry. Can't be that different. She laughed despite herself, then covered her mouth, startled by the sound. It had been so long since laughter filled that room. Owen glanced at her, smiling for real this time. You still do that? Do what? Hide your smile like it's a secret. She blushed slightly. Some things are worth keeping. For a moment, they both forgot the rain, the years, the pain. It felt almost normal. Then lightning struck nearby, shaking the house. The power flickered again, then died completely. The fire sputtered but held. Great, she muttered. Now we've got no lights, no heat beyond that, and a baby who hates thunder. I'll get some candles, he said, already on his feet. He returned with a handful of white candles, setting them carefully along the mantel. The soft glow turned the room golden. Stella watched him move, strong, deliberate, yet careful now, as though he feared breaking something precious. When he was done, she said quietly, You've changed. He looked up. You haven't. That's not true, she said. I'm not the woman you left. He walked closer. I didn't leave, Stella. You did. She met his gaze evenly. You made it impossible to stay. The air between them thickened. Too many truths, too little space. I was angry, he admitted, but not at you, at myself, at how much I needed you. She blinked rapidly, her throat tight. Needing someone isn't weakness, Owen. Tell that to the man I was, he said bitterly. The one who thought success meant never depending on anyone. I thought love made me vulnerable. I didn't realize it made me human. The baby cooed again, breaking the silence. Stella exhaled, shoulders trembling. You talk like you've changed, but change isn't words. I know. He stepped even closer now, the firelight flickering across his face. Then let me show you. Before she could reply, a loud crash echoed outside. Something had hit the fence. Instinctively, Owen moved toward the door. Stay here, he said. But Stella followed anyway, baby in her arms. Outside, a tree branch had fallen across her car, shattering the windshield. She gasped, That's my car. I'll handle it. Owen interrupted, already pulling his jacket tighter. He stepped into the rain, pushing the heavy branch aside, his clothes quickly drenched. Get back inside, she shouted. He ignored her. By the time he returned, soaked and shivering, Stella had a towel ready. Without thinking, she reached up and pressed it to his face, her hands lingering longer than necessary. For a moment, they simply stood there, her eyes lifting to his, water dripping from his hair onto her wrist. Still stubborn, she whispered. Still bossy, he murmured back. Their laughter overlapped softly, fragile and real. When they went back inside, the baby was sleeping again. Owen leaned against the wall, exhausted, while Stella watched him, something in her chest stirring that she thought she'd buried long ago. Maybe time didn't fix everything, but sometimes it gave love a second language. When two people who once loved each other are forced back together by fate, do you believe the heart remembers how to forgive, or does it just remember how to hurt? Share your thoughts below. Morning came slowly, gray and quiet. The storm had passed, but the house still felt suspended in its aftertaste. Heavy air, damp wood, the lingering scent of rain. Stella sat at the table with a mug of coffee. She wasn't drinking. Eyes lost somewhere in the steam. Owen stood at the window, looking out at the fallen tree and the wrecked car. Neither spoke. Silence had become a strange kind of truce. Finally, Owen said, "We should call someone to clear the road." Stella nodded absently. "Already did. They said tomorrow." He turned toward her, unsure how to fill the distance that wasn't physical anymore. "You always did handle everything before I could offer." She gave a small, sad smile. "That was the problem, wasn't it? You only offered when it was too late." He didn't argue. She wasn't wrong. Leo's soft gurgles came from the nearby cradle, breaking the tension. Owen looked down at his son, and something in him softened again. "He smiles in his sleep," he said quietly. "You did that too." Stella looked up. "You remember?" "Every detail," he said. "Even the way you used to hum when you thought I was asleep." Her throat tightened. "You never told me you noticed." "I didn't tell you a lot of things," he said, taking a seat across from her. "But I remember everything, including the night we ended." She froze. "Owen." "No," he said gently. "We never really talked about it. Maybe we should." Her fingers gripped the mug tighter. "What's left to say? You didn't believe me. You believed everyone else." He nodded, pain flickering across his face. "Because I was afraid to believe you. If I believed you, I'd have to admit I was wrong, and I built my whole life on never being wrong." Stella's voice trembled. "Do you even know what that did to me?" He met her eyes. "Tell me." She hesitated, then set the mug down with a soft thud. "You got that call, remember? The one from your partner, Raymond. He told you he saw me having dinner with another man. You didn't even ask who it was. You just assumed." Owen's jaw tightened. "Raymond said." "Raymond lied." She cut in. "The man was my brother, Owen. You'd met him once years before. You didn't even recognize him." He went completely still. "Your brother?" She nodded, tears spilling. "He was going through a divorce. I was helping him. But you wouldn't listen. You said I humiliated you, that I'd ruined the Hale name." Owen's head dropped into his hands. "God." She stood, voice cracking. "Do you have any idea what it's like to watch the man you love, your husband, look at you like you're filth? I begged you to trust me. I begged you." "I remember," he whispered. "You turned away," she said, tears streaming now. "And when I left that night, I was already pregnant." He looked up sharply. "You knew?" "I found out the next morning. I wanted to tell you, but you blocked my number. Owen, you told your lawyers not to contact me again." Owen's face paled. He looked like someone who'd just been handed a mirror after years of refusing to see his reflection. "I told myself I'd tell you someday," Stella continued, voice trembling. "But when Leo was born and I saw his eyes, I knew I couldn't put him in the crossfire of your world. I wanted peace for him, even if it meant losing you forever." Owen stood slowly, stepping closer. "You shouldn't have had to choose." "I did," she said softly, "because you made me." His chest heaved, grief and guilt spilling through every breath. "I was blind. I let my pride destroy everything." Her voice broke. "I know." Owen reached for the back of a chair, steadying himself. "Raymond, he betrayed both of us." She wiped her cheeks. "It doesn't matter anymore. The damage was done." "Yes, it does," he said, eyes burning with new clarity. "Because I can fix that. I can make it right." "Owen." "No," he said firmly. "I need to do this, Stella. Not to prove anything, but because I can't live knowing I let someone else decide our story." She looked at him for a long moment, then sighed. "You can't undo the past." "Maybe not," he said quietly, "but maybe I can earn a future." She looked down at Leo, sleeping peacefully. "He deserves to know the man you're trying to be, but he also deserves to know the man you were. Both." Owen nodded slowly, a single tear escaping. "Then tell him one day. Tell him his father was a fool who finally learned what matters." She smiled faintly, brushing his hand with hers. "Maybe he'll see for himself." Owen turned his hand, their fingers touching properly now, interlacing. It was tentative, like testing an old bridge after years of neglect. but it held. For the first time, they sat in silence that wasn't heavy. It was healing. The fire crackled softly. Outside, the rain had slowed to a whisper. When someone finally confesses the truth behind their mistakes, does understanding their pain make forgiveness easier or harder? What do you think Stella should do? The world felt softer the next morning. The sun finally broke through the thinning clouds, scattering light across Stella's living room. The baby cooed in his cradle, little fists reaching for air as if trying to grab the sunlight itself. Owen stood nearby, watching. There was something healing about the way the morning touched everything it fell upon. He crouched beside Leo, whispering, "You've got her eyes, you know." Stella, coming in with 2 mugs of coffee, caught his words and smiled faintly. That's not necessarily a compliment. He looked up at her, eyes glinting with something warm. It was once. She hesitated, then handed him a cup. "Careful, it's hot." He accepted it, fingers brushing hers for a second too long. Neither commented. The quiet between them was different now. Not tense, not painful, just full of unspoken things they were finally ready to face. They sat across from each other on the couch. The baby slept again, bundled in soft blue. "So," she said, half smiling, "you're still allergic to mornings?" He chuckled. "You still think coffee counts as breakfast?" Her laugh came easier this time. "Touché." For a while they just talked. Small things at first, like the weather or how much Leo loved the sound of rain. But soon the conversation turned deeper, sliding into memories like they'd never stopped talking. "Do you remember Paris?" she asked suddenly. "How could I forget?" he said, smiling at the memory. "You got lost trying to find that art gallery." "I didn't get lost," she protested. "You walked too fast. You said, 'A real gentleman walks behind a lady.'" Her cheeks flushed. "I was teasing." "I wasn't," he said softly. "It was one of the best days of my life." The air between them shifted, gentle, glowing. Later, when the baby stirred again, Owen moved without thinking. He lifted Leo carefully, cradling him against his chest. "Hey, little man," he murmured. "You hungry?" The way he held the child, careful, protective, made something in Stella's heart twist. "He likes when you hum," she said quietly. Owen blinked. Yes," she said, smiling softly. "He falls asleep when he hears a low voice." "Try it." He hesitated. "I don't really." "Just try." So he did. A low, rough tune, off-key, uncertain, but somehow perfect. Stella watched him, her eyes filling with tears she didn't even try to hide. "See," she whispered. "He loves it." Owen looked down at the baby, then at her. "I think I do too." She smiled through tears. "You've changed more than you know." He shook his head slowly. "No, I just finally remembered who I was when I was with you." The words hung in the air, raw and true. She turned away, blinking fast. "Don't say things like that, Owen." "Why not?" "Because I might believe them." He stood there for a moment, the baby asleep again in his arms. Then maybe that's the point. They spent the afternoon in that fragile peace, talking, laughing, eating leftovers. At one point, Stella took him to her small art studio in the back of the house. Canvases leaned against the walls, landscapes, portraits, abstract splashes of emotion. Owen stopped in front of one that caught his eye. It was a man and a woman facing opposite directions, but their shadows reached for each other, hands almost touching in the middle. He stared at it for a long time. "You painted this?" She nodded. "After the divorce." "What were you trying to say?" "That sometimes love doesn't die," she said quietly. "It just forgets how to speak." Owen turned toward her, his voice barely a whisper. "Then maybe it's time we reminded it." She froze, eyes wide, pulse racing. "Owen!" He took a step closer, then another, until there was almost no space left between them. "I don't expect forgiveness overnight," he said softly. "But I want to know you again. Not the woman I lost, the woman you became." Her voice broke. "And if I don't know how to let you in, then I'll wait," he said simply. "I've waited this long already." Her eyes filled with tears. "You used to hate waiting." "I used to hate a lot of things I didn't understand. She laughed through her tears, shaking her head. You really mean it, don't you? He nodded slowly, every word. She reached up, brushing a tear from her cheek. You know what's crazy? What? I never stopped loving you. I just stopped hoping you'd ever love me again. That broke him. Completely. He took her hand, pressing it gently to his chest. Then let me prove that I never stopped either. The baby stirred again, a soft sigh, a tiny sound, and somehow it pulled them both back from the edge. They looked at each other and smiled through the ache, like two people learning to breathe the same air again. That night, when Stella went to put Leo to bed, Owen stood in the doorway. He's lucky, he said quietly. Why? Because he'll grow up knowing what unconditional love looks like. She looked up at him, tears brimming again. He'll know it because of you too, Owen. He shook his head. No, because of us. For the first time, Stella didn't correct him. Can two people who broke each other's hearts ever truly fall in love again? Or do they just learn to love differently? What would you do if you were in Stella's place? The next few days blurred into something that almost felt like happiness. Owen stayed longer than planned, fixing the broken fence, cooking breakfast, even learning to change diapers under Stella's amused supervision. He hadn't laughed like that in years, and neither had she. It was fragile, unspoken, but real, like spring daring to bloom after winter. And that's why the fall hurt even more. It started with a knock. Stella opened the door to find a woman standing there, sharp suit, colder eyes. Mrs. Monroe? Yes. I'm Linda Carver, legal counsel for Hale Industries. Stella frowned. Is something wrong? Linda's expression was businesslike. Mr. Hale instructed me to finalize a transfer of guardianship documentation and an estate clause concerning the child. I just need your signature. Stella froze. What? Owen stepped into the hallway, just then, towel slung over his shoulder. Linda, what are you doing here? Delivering the paperwork you requested, sir. Stella turned to him, disbelief flooding her face. Paperwork. Owen's confusion flickered into panic. Wait, Stella, it's not what it sounds like. Her voice rose. It sounds like you're trying to claim my son through a legal loophole. The baby began to cry in the other room. The sound split the silence like a blade. Stella, Owen said quickly, stepping forward. Listen to me. I asked Linda to draw up a security clause. It's not custody, it's protection. If anything happens to you, I wanted to make sure Leo's provided for. You didn't ask me, she snapped. You just decided what was best again, like before. Because I wanted to protect you both. By controlling us? Her voice shook. You haven't changed at all. Owen, you still think love is ownership. Owen's face fell. That's not fair. She took a step back, clutching the edge of the doorframe. No, it's the truth. I let myself believe you could change, that maybe the man who once broke me could learn how to hold me without breaking me again. But you can't. He reached for her. Stella, don't. Her voice cracked. You talk about earning a future, but you're still trying to buy it. Linda, sensing the storm, muttered, I'll come back later, and left quickly, the door closing behind her. The silence that followed was unbearable. Owen stood there, chest heaving. You're twisting this into something it's not. She glared at him, tears streaming. Then what is it, Owen? A gesture? A PR move? Guilt. He slammed a hand against the wall, voice breaking. It's love, damn it. I don't know how to show it any other way. Her breath hitched. Then that's the tragedy, isn't it? He blinked, stunned. You think love is about control, or saving someone, or fixing what you broke with money, she whispered. But real love, what I wanted, was just honesty, trust. I didn't need a billionaire. Owen, I needed you. He stared at her, trembling. And I'm right here. No, she said softly, tears falling. You're still chasing redemption like it's a business deal. He looked down, crushed by the truth in her words. So what now? Stella swallowed hard. You go. I need time. And Leo, he needs peace. For a long moment, he didn't move, The rain outside had started again, tapping against the windows like fate knocking on glass. Finally, he nodded. "If that's what you want." "It's what we need," she said, though her voice trembled with the weight of it. He looked at the baby's crib one last time, whispering, "Goodbye, little man." Then he turned to Stella. "I meant every word I said. Even if I don't deserve you, I'll never stop loving you." She didn't reply, just stood there, tears streaming, as the door closed behind him. Owen drove aimlessly through the city, the night swallowing him whole. Neon lights blurred through rain-streaked windows, matching the ache in his chest. He stopped at a red light, gripping the steering wheel until his knuckles whitened. The image of Stella's tears replayed again and again. He had tried so hard to fix everything, and somehow he'd broken it again. He parked by the river, staring at his reflection in the water. The man who looked back wasn't a billionaire, wasn't a success story, just a man who'd forgotten how to love without fear. His phone buzzed. A message from his assistant. "Urgent. Raymond's been arrested. Embezzlement charges. He's been using your name for months." Owen froze. The truth hit him like a punch. Raymond, again, the same man who'd lied about Stella, the same one who'd poisoned everything between them. He laughed bitterly, running a hand over his face. History really doesn't let go, does it? But maybe this time he wouldn't run. Back at the house, Stella sat in the dim glow of the nursery lamp, rocking Leo gently. Her tears had dried, but her heart hadn't. "He really does love you," she whispered to the baby. "He just doesn't know how to love without hurting first." The baby sighed in his sleep, tiny fingers curling around her necklace. She closed her eyes. "Maybe I don't either." When someone keeps repeating the same mistake, even with good intentions, should love keep forgiving or finally let go? What do you think Stella should do now? The world moved differently after Owen left. For Stella, the silence of the house became unbearable. Every creak, every sigh of the wind felt louder without his presence. Leo's soft cries were the only sound that reminded her that love, even when fractured, still breathed somewhere within these walls. She didn't regret sending him away. She regretted that it had to hurt this much. Meanwhile, across the city, Owen sat in his glass-walled office, staring at the skyline he used to own with pride. The empire he'd built now fell hollow, just a monument to a man who'd misunderstood what success really meant. The news of Raymond's arrest had spread quickly. The betrayal was public, messy, humiliating. For once, though, Owen didn't care about the headlines. The only thing that mattered was a look on Stella's face when she thought he betrayed her again. He opened his laptop and stared at an unfinished email to her. It had just 3 words. "I'm sorry again." He couldn't hit send. Apologies, he'd learned, meant nothing without change. So he closed the laptop and called his assistant. "Sell the shares Raymond left. Half of the profits. Transfer them to Stella Monroe's name. Anonymously." "Sir, you heard me." He hung up before he could change his mind. Maybe she'd never know it came from him. Maybe that was better. That night, the storm returned, not the kind that broke windows, but the quiet, slow rain that seemed to whisper regrets against the glass. Stella stood by the window, holding Leo, lost in thought. Her phone buzzed. A news alert. Raymond Cole arrested. Accused of fraud, framing former partner Hale in personal scandal. Her breath caught. She read it twice, then again. He hadn't lied. Not this time. Her knees weakened as she sank into the couch, tears brimming. "Oh, Owen," she whispered. "What have I done?" She thought of the way he'd looked at her when he said he wanted to protect them, the raw sincerity in his voice, and she'd pushed him away again. Leo stirred in her arms, and she kissed his forehead. Maybe love doesn't always come back easy. Maybe it needs breaking before it can grow again. Owen, meanwhile, drove to the one place that had always made him think of her, the old coastal house they bought early in their marriage. It had been empty for years, but he'd kept it maintained. The sea wind smelled the same. He walked through the silent rooms, dust motes floating to the fading light. He could still see her laughter here, the echo of paint-stained fingers and soft music. He sank into the armchair where she used to read, the leather cracked and warm, If this is what I get for being proud, he muttered in the empty room, then I deserve it. He closed his eyes and imagined her voice. You don't deserve punishment. Owen, you deserve peace. He smiled bitterly. I wouldn't even know what to do with peace. But somewhere inside him, a small voice whispered, go home. The next morning, Stella made a decision. She packed Leo's diaper bag, grabbed her car keys, and drove. She didn't even know what she'd say if she saw him. Maybe nothing. Maybe everything. It was still raining when she pulled up outside his office building. The receptionist recognized her immediately and buzzed her through, wide-eyed. When the elevator doors opened, Owen looked up from his desk and froze. Stella stood there, holding Leo, her hair damp, eyes red but clear. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then she whispered, I saw the news. He exhaled slowly, relief and fear tangled in one breath. So, I know, she said softly. And I also know I said things I didn't mean. He stood, walking toward her cautiously, like a man afraid to wake from a dream. You had every right to say them. She shook her head. No, I had every right to feel them, but I should have trusted you. He swallowed hard. I gave you every reason not to. Maybe, she said, her voice trembling. But I think love isn't about reasons anymore. It's about choices. He looked at her, his voice low. Then what's yours? She stepped closer, tears in her eyes. To stop running from the only person who ever made me feel safe and terrified at the same time. He blinked, trying to absorb the words. Stella, I don't want perfection. Owen, I just want honesty. Even if it's messy. Even if it hurts sometimes. He nodded, his throat tight. Then you'll get honesty. And all of me, with or without the billions. She smiled through tears. Good, because I don't need the billionaire. He smiled faintly. Just a man? She nodded. Just a man. Leo gurgled softly between them, reaching out one tiny hand toward Owen. It broke them both. He took the baby gently, cradling him against his chest. Hey, little man, you're tougher than both of us, huh? Stella laughed through her tears. He gets that from you. Owen looked up, eyes shining. Then maybe there's hope. They stood there for a long moment. Three people who'd been broken in different ways, finally learning how to fit together again. The world outside was still gray, but it didn't matter. They'd made their choice. When love gives you a second chance, do you take it even if you're afraid it might break again? Or do you protect your heart and walk away? What would you choose? Weeks passed. The headlines about Owen Hale's empire faded, but the man himself had changed in ways no newspaper could capture. The office he once ruled with iron precision now stood quieter, softer. He spent his mornings at Stella's home instead of in board meetings, often found feeding Leo while she painted by the window. For the first time, this was his empire, not built from power, but from peace. It was a bright Saturday when Owen arrived at Stella's house with his sleeves rolled up and a nervous smile. She was in the garden, barefoot in the grass, Leo in a blanket beside her, gurgling happily at the sunlight. Hey, Owen called softly, leaning against the fence. She turned, her face glowing in the morning light. You're early. He smiled. I didn't sleep much. Work stress. No, he said, eyes tender. I was afraid I'd dream you away. Her heart squeezed. You're still terrible with lines, you know. He laughed. And you still fall for them. She did. Every time. They sat together on the blanket. The baby nestled between them. For a while, neither spoke. They didn't need to. Finally, Owen said, I keep replaying the day I came here angry. I walked through that door ready to tear you apart. And instead, he smiled faintly. You held my redemption in your arms. Stella looked down at Leo, brushing a finger along his tiny hand. He saved us both, didn't he? He did, Owen whispered. He reminded me what love looks like when it's innocent, when it forgives before it even understands why. She met his gaze, tears brimming again, but this time they were warm, not painful. I think we both needed to remember that. Later that afternoon, as the baby napped, Stella took Owen's hand. "Come with me?" He followed her to her studio. On the easel stood a new painting, not finished yet but radiant. It was of three figures, a man, a woman, and a child. The man's shadow, once dark and imposing, now bent toward the light. The woman's brushstrokes were strong again, her color returning. The child's hand was stretched between them, connecting the two. Owen stared in silence. Emotion thick in his throat. "That's us." Stella nodded softly. "It's called Reborn." He stepped closer. "Can I buy it?" She smiled, shaking her head. "You can have it, but only if you earn it." He grinned. "And how do I do that?" She took his face in her hands, her touch gentle but sure. "By staying." He closed his eyes, leaning into her palms. "Then I'll never leave again." Their lips met, slow, tender, full of years of longing and forgiveness. It wasn't a desperate kiss of passion, but the kind that spoke of homecoming, of promises remade in silence. When they parted, she whispered against his lips, "Welcome home." Months passed, and their lives began to blend again. Quietly, naturally. Owen still ran his company, but now he came home early. Stella started teaching art classes downtown. The world outside kept spinning, but inside their little house, time moved differently. Sometimes in the evenings, Owen would find Stella painting while Leo slept. He'd sit nearby, reading, and she'd glance at him from time to time, smiling at how peace had replaced the emptiness that once lived in his eyes. One night, as rain began to fall soft like a memory, Stella whispered, "You know, I used to hate the sound of storms." "Because of that night?" he asked. She nodded. "Because storms always took something from me." He reached across the couch, taking her hand. "Then let's make this one give something back." She smiled. "Like what?" He leaned closer. "A promise." "To what?" "That this time, no store will ever take us apart again." She kissed his knuckles softly. "Then it's a deal." Outside, the thunder rolled, not menacingly this time, but like applause. Months later, Leo took his first steps in that same living room. Owen knelt in front of him, arms out, laughter bubbling from his chest as the baby toddled toward him. Stella watched from the doorway, heart swelling. The sound of Owen's laughter filled every corner of her soul. When Leo finally reached him, Owen lifted the boy high in the air, spinning until both were breathless with joy. "I told you he'd be walking before his first birthday," Owen said, grinning. "You also said you could cook," Stella teased. He smirked. "I said I'd try. That's different." She laughed, crossing the room and wrapping her arms around both of them. The three of them stood there, tangled in light, laughter, and the smell of home. And for the first time, the past didn't hurt anymore. It just reminded them how far they'd come. That evening, when Owen tucked Leo into his crib, he whispered softly, "Sleep tight, little man. You save your dad's heart." Stella leaned in the doorway, watching him. "You talk to him like he understands." "He does," Owen said with a smile. "Maybe not with words, but with love." She stepped into his arms, resting her head on his chest. "You've changed so much." He kissed her hair. "No, you just helped me remember who I was before pride made me forget." She smiled. "And who's that?" "The man who never stopped loving you." The baby stirred. The rain whispered outside, and the two of them stood in the soft light. The echoes of heartbreak finally silenced by love that had learned how to last. Because sometimes love doesn't need to start over. It just needs to be found again. Do you believe true love can survive pride, time, and distance? Or does it only live in stories like this one? Tell us what you think love reborn really means. Sometimes love doesn't end. It just waits for the right moment to begin again. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to red heart, like the video, and speech balloon. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Do you believe true love can survive pride and pain like Owen and Stella's did? Your comments mean the world. We read every single one. And if you want more emotional, life-changing love stories like this, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss the next one. Because here, we don't just tell stories. We remind the world that love always finds a way back home.